What's up, y'all? I'm Aaron Sawyer.
And I'm Matt Michaels.
And we're back with another episode of The Refresh Cast. And today is a highly charged subject, bro. What are we chopping it up about today?
So we're just going to talk about the best diet for humans and whether it's more plant-based or animal-based. But rather than thinking of it from this perspective that one is better than the other, thinking that it's based off of the individual. Each individual is going to need something different based off of the types of symptoms that they're dealing with. So not thinking of it from such a black and white perspective like I've tended to do in the past.
Yeah, we're so sorry. We're so harsh sometimes. It's not our fault. We're just very passionate.
Yes.
Let's talk about the nutrient profiles of a plant-based diet versus a carnivorous diet.
Yeah, so I think the main argument made by the animal-based community is you can't get specific nutrients from plants such as B12 or even choline is very rare to find in a plant-based diet. So their argument would be that obviously veganism or plant-based diet is not best for human health because you're not even getting the full nutrient profile from the diet. However, I would also say from those who push plant-based diets and raw veganism and things like that, their argument would be that the liver actually acts as a chemical manufacturing plant. So it doesn't just filter the blood, but it'll take primary nutrients and turn them into secondary nutrients, such as B12. And that there's different strains of bacteria in the gut that also produce B12. So their argument would be that it's not actually necessary that the body can produce it on its own.
So what's been your experience with the two? Like, I know you've been experimenting with the animal-based diet more recently. You've had success with the fruitarian, and like it works until it doesn't, from my understanding. Like, and the body is constantly shifting and changing as its needs are. But what's been your experience with the two?
So it's my experience and experience from different clients that I've worked with. So when I transitioned to veganism and then raw veganism and even fruitarianism, I got a lot of benefits. And it could be argued that I got those benefits because I cut out all the fake processed bullshit that we were eating, and I stopped eating industrial raised meats, which we'll talk about shortly. So I think that raw veganism, fruitarianism is great for hydration for sure because they're all made of structured water, that H3O2, that living water. That's what all the fruits are actually made of. And so that helps to hydrate us on a cellular level. Fruits are also extremely astringent, so they are extremely cleansing to the body. They pull on the lymph and they clean up the system. Not to mention all the fiber in fruits and vegetables help to clear the digestive tract. It's kind of like a broom within it. So for those reasons, I think that those diets are great for cleansing protocols. The other thing to think about though is if you look at what the fruits used to look like compared to what fruits look like now, fruits were almost unedible most of the time. So like bananas have been altered, melons have been altered. There's very little fruit in those products before humans came and actually altered them genetically.
Wow.
So these fruits have way more fructose, way more sugar than they were supposed to. They have way more meat in the fruit than before.
Meat?
Well, like as
okay.
Melon, right? What you actually eat of the melon. Yeah, no.
Freaking just gave a bunch of vegans a heart attack.
So for me, I got a great detox out of it. I got cleansed, and I really eliminated a lot of my symptoms. However, I still dealt with this issue of these huge blood sugar imbalances, and I was only eating sugar. So from those that push fruitarianism and things like that, they would say that over time, your body would naturally adapt and balance to that. And I think that's true. But for a lot of people that I've worked with that are dealing, like women who are dealing with PCOS, which is like type 4 diabetes really, it's all these huge blood sugar imbalances. I've noticed that when you put them on primarily an animal-based diet, it helps to balance that blood sugar and eliminate those symptoms of PCOS and things like that. So I think that now I know that I choose different diets depending on the individual and what their individualized needs are. So if I have a woman come in with PCOS, I'm not just going to put them on all fruit because that can exacerbate it. The other thing is like when you do fruit detoxes, you typically will start to feel really shitty. You'll start to detox heavily. And there can be these huge emotional swings that come with that type of diet change. And from a fruitarian perspective, it's that the body starts to eliminate anything that is broken or damaged in the body, and that's what the detox looks like, or even people's teeth falling out from doing fruitarian for a long time. And they would say that those teeth are weak, so the body's getting rid of them, won't grow new teeth.
Whoa.
However, I've never personally experienced that. That's just what is talked about in the fruitarian world. So whether that's true or not, I haven't had personal experience with it. So my whole take on it now is, how can I get this person balanced and feeling better as quickly as possible? And then they can go any direction they want to as far as their diet's concerned. So if I put someone with PCOS on an animal-based diet and really eliminate all of these carbohydrates and sugars, that balances them much faster. It balances their hormones and things work better. And then if we want to go deeper into detox, we could do some raw vegan or fruit-based diets. So I think that really just looking at the individual and seeing what they need and what's going to work best for them is really important.
I want to commend you on the level of humility that takes, because you see a lot of these nutritional experts, like their identity becomes so wrapped up in the fruitarian or the carnivore diet or whatever this is, and they don't, because their identity is wrapped up in it, they're not so willing to look at a balanced middle ground or understand that different bodies are going to require different nutrient levels, so different sources.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
just want to say good job on not becoming like just the fucking fruit guy for the rest of your life. Or just, and I mean, you started the animal diet and the biceps got bigger. So
yeah, I think that ultimately it just comes down to not allowing myself to be stuck in any specific dogma, but in just realizing that everybody's different. Everyone may need different things. The other thing I wanted to touch on between the raw vegan and the animal-based is really this fact that a lot of people are highly sensitive to the plant chemicals or toxins that are in certain vegetables and things like that. So like the beans and legumes and the nuts and seeds and all the grains, they're really high in lectins, which cause inflammation and people cause a lot of gut damage. And so if you take someone dealing with those issues and you put them on all plants, they're going to have a lot of issues. And I've seen that happen for a lot of people. So those kind of people, you put them on an animal-based diet and it reduces that inflammation so that they can actually heal. The other one is oxalates that are in a lot of vegetables, specifically like dark leafy greens. Tomatoes are high in oxalates as well, or eggplant, or any of these things. And when you eliminate those, inflammation goes down, because a lot of people get this oxalate buildup and it causes pain and inflammation in their body. So again, if I put them on a plant-based diet, they're going to have more inflammation, not less.
And that's because of the source of the plant too, right? Like the place that it's coming from. Like maybe this plant, if it was grown in your backyard, it wouldn't have the same.
Well, it would still have the lectins with the oxalates in it. So
okay.
The only thing that's going to be different with that is that they're not sprayed in chemicals, pesticides, fungicides, insecticides, all that.
That's something I'm thinking about. It's like, dude, you put someone like people who are maybe a natural plant-based diet would work for them for some time, but they're like, why am I still getting sick?
Right.
And it's because of the chemicals being sprayed on those plants. So it's like you're not even safe doing just plant-based because of all the insecticides and pesticides on the food.
And the fact that a lot of our fruits and vegetables are all genetically modified. Like wheat could be a healthy food. In Europe, it doesn't bother people because of how they produce their wheat. It's not soaked in glyphosate. It's not genetically modified. But in the States, we've altered all of our food that we are eating, and that leads to all these problems down the road. And we can dig into that.
And I just got one question for the people that do that. Why? Why? I want to ask, how do plant-based and animal-based diets impact cardiovascular health and cholesterol?
So I think that there's this huge misconception. We've been indoctrinated with this idea that cholesterol is bad for you. But cholesterol is what breaks down into all of your hormones. So this argument that eating an animal-based diet is going to increase cholesterol and that's a problem, not necessarily. In fact, for a lot of women who are dealing with chronic hormonal imbalances, increasing the level of cholesterol is going to improve their hormones because that's what breaks down into your hormones in the first place. So I think that that is a common misconception. And I would say, as far as the circulatory system, whether you go plant-based or animal-based, if you're eliminating all the highly processed foods, you're going to get benefits with that. And that's why you have people going vegan and they're getting these health benefits if they're not eating the fake vegan food, and you have people going carnivore and they're getting the same exact benefits. And so the truth is that in the center there, both are completely eliminating all the fake processed foods, the grains, the beans, all that kind of stuff. So it's just they're eating real food.
Yes, you can't go on the carnivore diet from Walmart. You simply cannot. You gotta go to fucking Daryl. Sorry, I'm not supposed to cuss. I'm supposed to be more gentle. You can't go to my boy Daryl. You gotta go to my boy Daryl, who has the cow, who knows the cow.
Right, and like I'll just touch on that. When you go buy meat from Walmart from an industrial raised farm, they're feeding these animals genetically modified corn and soy. They're not eating their species specific diet. They're not living outside living their real cow lives. So you are eating a sick and diseased cow, therefore you're eating that sickness and disease. Plus, when a cow is eating their species specific diet, which is grass and just grazing, they're going to be higher in omega-3s, the fatty acids that are really good for your brain and inflammation. But if you feed them genetically modified corn and soy, then they're going to be really high in omega-6s, which are the inflammatory. So it literally changes the molecular structure of the animal when you feed them incorrectly, and that's going to negatively impact us. And this is why it is so important that you're getting real food and you know where it's coming from, and shortening the distance from farm to plate.
On the plate.
Like, you gotta know where your food is coming from so that when you're buying these single ingredient foods, they're actually high quality and they came from people who are raising either the fruits, the vegetables, or the animal products correctly without all of the chemical additives and the wrong foods and all that kind of stuff.
I just want to say shout out to the farmers market, though.
100%.
You know, if you want to sponsor us, if you want to sponsor the Fresh Cast, we're great now, dude. We're a little like
And I do want to say, if you're looking for really good high quality animal proteins, Prairie Creek Farms has got it. Like, all of their chickens are pasture raised, their eggs are pasture raised, corn and soy free, their cows eat their species specific diet, they're living real cow lives out in the sun, eating grass and all that good stuff.
You hear that, Prairie Creek? We appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving us from the industrial farming nightmare.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out the lady with the goat cheese at the farmer's market. Don't know her name, don't know her farm, but I want to give her a plug. We'll all find out next weekend. Gosh, she said, she's like, I don't have the goats because I love the cheese. She said, I have the cheese because I love the goats. I was like, that's so cool. You just like love these goats, and then as a byproduct, you end up with all this cheese.
Yeah, and isn't that exactly how it should be?
It is, man. It is. And we're getting closer and closer to that every day, man. I want to ask what the difference in digestion is between plant and animal.
Yeah, so this again gets back into the lectins and oxalates in plant-based foods. So if I have someone coming to me who has chronic digestive issues and I transition them to a plant-based diet, but they're sensitive to the lectins and the oxalates, then they're going to continue to have those types of symptoms. So whether I put somebody on a plant-based or animal-based diet, I'm going to have them remove all of the lectins and the oxalates from their diet, even if it's plant-based. So I have actually just developed a recipe book that's plant-based, free from oxalates and lectins and all those inflammatory markers within the food. And then I also have an animal-based recipe book. And for the same thing, because what I've seen is someone with chronic digestive issues, if I put them on like meat and fruit that have none of those plant defense chemicals, oxalates or lectins, they start to feel better much faster because it's that causes the problem. However, if someone's dealing with chronic constipation, you put them on an animal-based diet, a lot of times it's going to make that constipation worse. It's hard to break down. They're going to have low hydrochloric acid. So if you supplement the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes they need, then that can improve that. But if we want to do it without supplements, again, it really just depends on the person.
You hear that? You DM Matt. All right, for those recipes. All right, get your body right. I wanted to ask
in the community.
Get in the community. Go to school, bro.
Yeah.
School with a K. Like, we're out trying to build a community of people that think the same way for this very reason, because it can be very isolating choosing to live a healthier life. And whenever you're surrounded with people that want to live a healthy life with you and want to support you in that, it can really empower you to make the right decision. All of a sudden, those comfort foods aren't so comforting. Because you're like, man, my squad don't fuck with bagels. I stopped eating bagels, bro. My squad don't fuck with bagels. But, you know, whenever I was working in my own office job, like, the whole squad fucked with bagels, you know?
Sure.
I want to ask you, bro, what was like, was there an aha moment where you started to really consider the animal-based diet? 'Cause I remember, like, I had significant results doing a fruit-based cleanse with you for a while. And I never fully went plant-based, but I saw your character arc, if you will, where you were really doing the math. And you know, it seemed like around the winter time there was a sort of shift in possibility for you. So I wanted to know, what was that moment? Was there a moment or just a string of moments that really opened your mind to like, okay, I need to start entertaining other possibilities?
Yeah, really, it was just working with a few specific individuals that I was coaching and how much they suffered and struggled with just the plant-based or the fruit-based diet. And their symptoms continued to get worse. And then once I actually brought the animal proteins back in, it balanced them out. So we were still able to do all of the detox protocols and go through that regimen, but they didn't have the huge emotional upswings, and they didn't have the horrible detox symptoms, and it was able to clean their body but be more balanced at the same time. And so it doesn't have to be so intense and harsh and painful for people. And so I've seen a lot more success when I don't push someone to eliminate the animal proteins, but instead choose the highest quality and implement the good high quality fruits as well. And you do a mixture of those, and you get the cleaning of the fruits, you get the building of the animal proteins. And I think that there's something to be said from the spiritual level. When you eat animal protein, it grounds you. When you're eating high fruit, it really takes you up. You become less dense, right? And so that's kind of where I was stuck for a long time, is the spiritual implications of eating just fruit or a plant-based diet is you're eliminating the karma from eating death, from killing another animal. And so I would say that that's something that I still battle with back and forth. But simultaneously, everything within this realm that we live in, death turns into rebirth. Everything dies and something new comes from that. The animals, the other animals, and that helps them to become sustained. And if you look at just the history of humanity, our ancestors would have died if they didn't eat animal proteins during the winter. So there's a balance to be had. And so, you know, like during summer and spring, yeah, I might eat primarily fruit because that's really in abundance. And I'm growing all of my own fruits and vegetables. Whereas in the winter, I'm eating more of the animal proteins. And even thinking about it from the acid-alkaline balance, when we talk about plant-based or fruitarian or alkaline diets, the idea is that disease cannot live in an alkaline environment. And so you transition to this alkaline diet, gets rid of the acidity in the body, and you heal. But it's interesting. So summer, it's very acidic. The sun is acidic. And then so you eat these alkaline foods and you get that perfect balance. Because it's not about being alkaline or acidic, it's about balance. And then in the winter, cold air is alkaline. And then you eat the acidic meats, and again, it's that balance. And so that's why I've landed a lot on this fruits and meats, because you're getting the alkaline acidic balance. So you're meeting in the middle.
I remember like my soon-to-be wife, whenever we first met, she was straight up just eating fruit, like full-on Dr. Sebi alkaline diet, which had worked well for her, except for the fact that her menstruation cycles, she was not having a heavy flow at all. Like little dots. You know, like hadn't had her period in 3 months, so she wasn't pregnant.
Yeah.
You know, and then I definitely can have compassion for people that are like don't want to harm animals or don't want to you know experience or be a part of that ceremony. But she ate salmon, like organic fresh salmon, and all of a sudden the next week started flowing. You know, and I think that a way to kind of work through that is to add an element of sacredness and ceremony. Whenever you're gratitude, whenever you're eating the plant, it's like, it's not like, yeah, get over here, cow. It's like, dude, thank you for giving your life so that mine can persevere.
Totally. And I want to touch on that. The menstrual cycle for women is their fountain of youth. And all these women having all of these menstrual issues and pain and the PCOS and the fibroids and all this stuff, and them actually losing their menstrual cycle. And then I've recently had a client where I put her on carnivore essentially, and within 2 weeks her menstrual cycle came back normal. So there's also something to be said about that. And so these experiences have been altering my perspective and challenging the dogma that I believed in and pushed for so long. Is like, you just can't argue with real experience.
Something to consider.
Real people.
Could it be? Could it be? Allegedly. So Matt, how do these differences in diets affect people's body weight and composition?
So again, this comes back, a big part of it is blood sugar regulation. So whenever you get a big spike in your blood sugar, it produces more insulin, and insulin tells the body to store fat. Because if you think about it, our ancestors, they want to put on as much fat as they can when the food is abundant, so that when it's not so abundant, they have something to feed on, because that's just stored energy essentially. But in today's world, we have plenty of excess energy as far as when we're talking about food, right? So we don't necessarily want to store that excess fat. That's not what we're looking to do. So again, what I've seen is if you take people and you put them on carnivore and cut out all the carbs for a time, they're going to enter into a state of ketosis. They're going to burn fat for fuel. You add in some fasting on top of that, you're going to hit autophagy much faster, which means your body's going to be able to heal faster and recycle old damaged cells faster. So I've seen huge shifts in people by transitioning them to meat-based. However, I would say the same where I've worked with people who had type 2 diabetes, so that's all blood sugar issues. They're obese, and you transition them to plant-based, primarily fruits, and it reverses the blood sugar imbalances, the diabetes, and they lose a lot of weight. So again, it depends on the person. But I think that either way, you can get similar results by just eliminating all the fake processed foods that everybody's eating. And that's going to help heal type 2 diabetes. That's going to help balance blood sugar, because you're not eating all this processed refined flours or refined sugar. So again, it just depends on the individual, and you could go either way and actually lose weight. But as far as body composition, when I started eating more animal proteins, my body almost instantly just grew in more muscle mass and just looked better from a physical perspective than when I was just eating fruits.
Now, for those listening and watching, I had a dream in October. When my boy Matt was doing just a fruit fast, I think he was just fasting for like 7 days. I had a dream. Me and Rebel and him and Callan were at dinner, and he's just like shivering and pale. And I look at Callan and I'm like, please feed this man a steak. and then it took a little bit, and he'd probably, if he was gonna have a dream about me, he'd be like, please stop eating bullshit. Please just eat stuff that is not factory farmed or processed. Like, peanut butter pretzel bites aren't gonna get you there, my guy.
It's a fact.
But yeah, I will say that like there's more color to your skin. Your body's more filled out, and there might be a time where it's like, okay, well now my body's having an adverse reaction to this. I need to go on a 7-day fruit cleanse and then reintroduce it. Like, you just need to be open-minded. What do you say to the people that you feel like, because correct me if I'm wrong, there's like people in the animal based community can be sometimes like, oh yeah, you're fucking vegan, and then people here on the fruit based, plant based community are like, you're a murderer.
Yeah.
And these guys are like, yeah, I love bacon, and then they're just like eternal war.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who you feel like like some people, I feel like there might not, it's gonna be really hard to like reach them, but there might be people who are willing to consider both options. What do you say for people that are like on the fence for either?
So we live in a world that wants to polarize us. It wants to separate us, blue team or red team, men versus women, black people versus white people. And it's even gone to the same place with diet. Well, it's carnivore or plant-based. And so the solution is to really find that middle ground and see what we have in common. And both parties are making a conscious decision to alter what they're consuming in order to achieve better health. And that is beautiful. And I totally see this vegan perspective of caring about the animals and not wanting to kill them. And that totally makes sense to me. And that's probably what I battle with most, is the spiritual implications of consuming another living thing that doesn't necessarily need to be consumed. And then on the animal base, it's a lack of compassion for those who truly care about the animals, and it's about caring for them. But I think that there is a middle ground where for our health, we do implement a little bit of both. We have the fruits, we have the animal products. We raise those animals the correct way, feeding them their species-specific diet, allowing them to live their real animal lives. And we are producing a beautiful life for them, and in return, they sustain us through the food that they supply for us. So I think that it's really about getting rid of judgment and coming to a place of centrality, of saying, like, we're not placing judgment on either one, and just saying that at the end of the day, both are trying to get better and heal, and that's really what is most important.
Yeah, I see that I really believe that the way through a lot of these problems is locally, and it's from the ground up, and it starts in your own backyard and your own network.
Yeah.
Right. So like, because I'm running the numbers here. I'm like, I don't think we'll ever get rid of factory farming. I think that there is going to be people that just simply don't want that, and they have an audience that simply doesn't want that. They're making too much money, and it's just too much momentum. It would take 100 years to even really start to get that momentum going the other way. But what you can do is you can make the conscious decision to start in your own local network. Like, okay, who has the best beef? Who has the best, like going to the farmers markets is a great, simple, like action plan that you can take. Cause it's like, you have this major industrial beast, and they're not, like, they're killing the farmer's business too. And the farmer that actually cares about his animals deserves to be invested in. And I think that's where, we're going to have to vote with our dollar and not prioritize convenience over health.
Totally. And I also want to touch on that there really seems to be this narrative and this push for plant-based diets and to get rid of animal products in general. And so the question has to be asked, why is that push happening? Because we can see that the powers that be don't truly care about human health, right? And in fact, the system profits off of people being sick. So the fact that there's this huge push to get rid of meat, like, raises an eyebrow for me. Why is that? And they're not pushing get rid of meat and start growing your own high-quality, nutritious food. It's get rid of meat and start making plant-based foods in a laboratory. So plant-based being the plant that they're being designed in. And get rid of meat, but start making artificial meat and selling artificial meat that they grow in a laboratory from cells of an animal. Or even, they're talking about 3D printing meat. That's a real thing right now, where they're 3D printing it. So it's this push that we only eat what's artificial. And if you look at in the ancient times, when they wanted to weaken the general public in order to control them, they got rid of animal products because it makes people more docile. It holds people back and makes them weaker. And so, when we talk about from the spiritual perspective, like yogis, they get rid of meat because, it takes down the aggressiveness. You're more in this place of harmony and love. But we live in a world that it can't always be that way. Sometimes you need that aggression. You need that side of things. So again, it's about the balance of the two. And I'm still seeking balance and what that means to me. But I just want to reiterate that the fact that they're pushing that narrative so hard and wanting to get rid of it, that says something to me.
Yeah, like I went to Oklahoma City at this little spiritual gift shop. And I saw it when I was checking out. It had this bag of ants, like bag of insects, and it said it's like good for the planet. Like edible insects is what they're selling, like a bag of edible insects. And the main hook was it's good for the planet, and I was like, allegedly, could it be? Perhaps. Do you possibly want me to only eat bugs? Because that might not be something that I'm down to do.
And that's a big push right now is bug-based protein. In fact, they're already using that in all of these processed foods. There's I can't remember the sciencey word that they use for it, but it's just bug protein. And that's in products on a regular basis now. So that transition is already being had, which is pretty interesting. And if you haven't looked into it, look into UN Agenda 2030. That's all I'm going to say. You will only...
YouTube, please. Put your hands on the
I forget about that. But it's just this huge push to get you living in a little pod and eating insects, and you own nothing, and everything is rented from the establishment. And it's about complete control. So there's something to be said about all of that.
No, look, in the name of being more compassionate, we found out through our first 15 episodes we could be a little rough around the edges. So I feel the necessary caveat: if you feel like eating bugs, then go for it in a pod, and you feel like that's good for your health and for the planet, by all means, like, I encourage you to experiment with the bugs. If that's what you want to do, let us know how you feel. You can comment below. Like, we don't want to lose you just because you want to eat bugs. We don't think that that's like a great thing all the time. It could, I don't know.
I do want to hit on, we're talking about a big push for the plant-based is for the environment as well, right? And if you think about it, the natural cycle of life is that there's animals that eat other animals. They create waste, which goes into the soil, and that's what makes healthy soil, right? Mm-hmm. And so as the waste breaks down, it creates healthy soil, and life springs from that. And this idea that farming is bad for the environment doesn't really make any sense. They say when we raise all these cows, they're releasing all the CO2 in the air, and it's raising the global temperature. But plants breathe CO2. Like, the point of a greenhouse is to increase the level of CO2 so that the plants get larger. So this idea that is good for the environment to get rid of farming animals doesn't really make any sense. And we could say, well, just caring for the animals, we don't want to kill the animals in the farming practices, and I get that. However, when you're doing industrial farming for fruits and vegetables, and they're going through and they're making those harvests, like, how many animals are they killing in that process? Like all of the rabbits and all of the little vermin that lives within all of that. So either way, animals are being harmed in these industrial practices. But if we got back to farming correctly, where there's this balance and the synergy between the animals and the plants the way that it was designed, then we wouldn't have any of these problems. So the problem isn't necessarily eating meat. The problem is the industrial farming practices for both plant-based and animal-based people.
Big farm and big pharma.
Yeah, it's true.
And now, look, no, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do another caveat around that. It's like, look, big pharma. We don't want no smoke. Dude, I was going to ask about the... like comparing plant-based diets and animal-based diets when it comes to diseases such as osteoporosis. I know you mentioned a client with diabetes and how that affected it, but like osteoporosis, diabetes, cancer, like how does it affect these on both ends of the spectrum?
So the perspective from the plant-based individuals, raw vegans, is that when the body becomes overly acidic, the body will start to leach calcium from bones and joints in order to realkalize the blood. So then if you switch to a more alkaline diet, well, then the bones can regenerate. However, the other perspective that I would see on that we know in naturopathic medicine or really ancient healing techniques that it's believed that if you eat liver, it helps regenerate your liver. So in the same way, if you're eating animal flesh, you're drinking bone broth, then you're taking the energetic properties of that food, and that's going to help you regenerate that part of your body as well.
Okay.
So again, the death breeding life inside of you. And so again, I don't think it's so black or white at all. That being said, when I have people who are dealing with chronic pain and chronic inflammatory diseases such as arthritis, when they go on all fruits, it doesn't take long before all the pain is gone.
Really?
That happens all of the time. However, I will also say that I've seen the same thing for when people go carnivore, all the inflammation goes down.
So it's really, I'm seeing this harmonious answer of like the underlying theme of, as long as it's natural and sustainable and properly sourced.
Yeah.
The source seems to be like this final puzzle piece of everything. It's like if you're getting it, if you're committed and disciplined and not introducing things that counteract or counterbalance it, right? Like if you can't have if you're going all animal, and these are for specific like detox protocols, and maybe you can find a balance, and maybe you can have the lamb with an orange, and you're not gonna have like this crazy reaction. But maybe you need for a time to go all fruits, 7 days, 14 days, cleanse it all out, and then introduce a vital animal organ that you pray over and give your gratitude to, and it just seems to be this underlying theme of whatever you choose, you need to be as ethically sourced as possible and as disciplined as possible. And like introducing the little like, oh, I'm on an animal-based diet. I'm just eating steaks and a little cookie. It's like, oh, why am I on fire? It's like, you ate the cookie, right, man. You ate the cookie.
It's the processed fake food that's the primary issue, and the genetically modified food, for sure. That is it. So yeah, getting high-quality food and eliminating all the fake processed foods.
Any final thoughts? And allegedly, it's the high. It's the process. It's just like we don't want to. The last thing we want to do here is be dogmatic in any way. But whenever we can look at, whenever we test these variables and see like, when 10 times out of 10 when you eat powdered donut, you feel shit.
Totally.
Like that's just how it goes, So like, is there any final closing statements that you want to? Yeah, I think this is a great podcast. I think this will be I'm excited to get this one out.
Yeah. I think the primary thing is realizing that we're all different. We have different needs depending on what type of issues that we're dealing with. And so that's why I use a biofeedback scanner for people. And it's going to come back with information where I can determine if they're showing sensitivities to all of these different animal products, meats and eggs, and then obviously going animal-based is not going to be the best option for them. However, if I get somebody that's showing sensitivity to fructose and all these different vegetables and fruits, well, then I know going plant-based is not going to be beneficial for them. So it's really meeting people where they're at with their issues and then developing a protocol that works for them or works for yourself. Because you don't need me to do that. Like, you can determine these things too. Do you feel good after you eat meat? If not, then probably that's not best for you. Do you feel inflamed and sick when you're eating plant-based? Well, then that's probably not so good for you. So it's really allowing your body to dictate the direction to go. And build that intuition and that connection with yourself, because your body's wanting to let you know what it needs and what it doesn't need. So if you can get connected with yourself and know how to eat based off of symptoms that come after you consume whatever you consume, well, then you know which direction to go.
That's cool. I just want to say, although you might think you don't need Matt, I promise you, you should definitely hit him up and get a biofeedback scanner and connect with his resources, the school community, everything that we're building here. Like, my wife broke out into hives after a spicy vegan enchilada on Wednesday, and we go see my guy, Matt, over here to my right, And he does the biofeedback report and scans, and he's like, dude, your body's allergic to fruits right now. Like, she's been eating fruit for like 3 years, you know? And we've since got her on a animal-based diet with, you know, ethically sourced, high-quality proteins. Inflammation's all the way down. He hooked her up with nettle tea. He just got this. He got the codes, bro. He got the sauce. So you need a guy like Matt in your life. And if you don't have a guy like Matt in your life, hit up Matt, and Matt would be the Matt in your life, bro. Because I need him. Everybody loves this guy, and he's about to have a baby, and you should definitely invest in him, bro. Because why wouldn't you? We're like the coolest people on the planet, and I hope you find balance and harmony with whatever decision you make. Just make sure that it is not factory farmed, processed
Yeah.
bullshit.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.